we're at the bottom end of the Fortune 500, right? So we're a fairly large company, about 12,000 employees, 6 billion in revenues, and more than 1,000 salespeople. And let's say 5 years ago, we were, from a demand gen perspective, we were in the business of delivering leads, like all marketing teams were. And we monitor the conversion rate of those leads and ultimately into opportunities. And one of the things that we noticed was the limitations of leads. And there's, leads are great because they are an early indicator of demand. They are a contact name that an SDR or a salesperson can start with as a point of entry into the account. But the limitation of leads are a couple. One is in our business, right? We sell large capital equipment, right? Big dollar ticket items, which is typically purchased by a buying team with multiple roles on the team. And in general, when we looked at the data, the contact that was the lead was generally not in the buying team. And sort of the flip side of that is if you are on the buying team and you have the horsepower to sign let's say $1 million purchase order, over the course of your career, you've gotten pretty good at not becoming a lead. You don't really want to get a call from an SDR, and so you know how to avoid that. So then we said, well, what is the next buying indicator of value? Right. And that is, we had built this capability to track all of these engagement touch points, right, on top of the CaliberMind tool, and we could monitor what the account was doing. And so we said, okay, well, we can monitor and measure that depth of engagement, and when it rises to a certain level, we can send an alert to the sales team. And so that became sort of an account lead. It's an account indicator of demand. And then as we started doing that, we started learning a couple of things. One is we wanted to deliver to the salesperson, okay, this account is doing this stuff. This is what this account is doing. And we recognized marketing speaks in marketing language. Sales doesn't speak marketing language. And so they're like, what do I do with this information? And so that's our sort of next solution that we're working toward is, okay, how do we wrap around that alert the appropriate context to say, Mr. Salesperson, Ms. Salesperson, this account is doing some interesting stuff. This is what they're doing. This is what you should talk to them about. I think what I've come to realize is, demand indicators are an interesting piece of value that marketing delivers to sales, but it's really the account intelligence that is the most valuable thing that we offer to sales. Right, marketing does other stuff, right? We create and establish the brand and messaging and all that stuff. But from a demand gen perspective, the most important thing that I think we can do is give intelligence to the sales team and enable their, let's say, efficient pursuit of sales. If we think about the SDR versus the field sales model in our world, we measure the average time for an SDR to pursue a lead. And it historically is over 10 minutes. And that's because they get a lead, which is a name and a phone number. They might get the last campaign that this person engaged with. And then they go out to LinkedIn Sales Navigator and they try and put together the story of what this account is. Part of the reason they're doing that is they know that this person may not be on the buying team. And their goal is to get to the buying team. And so they need to have the right approach to have the right conversation that gets them there. So they do this research, right? Our goal is to get that more than 10 minutes down to below 5 minutes. And doing that by giving all that context that the SDR was trying to put together, we already have it. And we can attach it to the lead. We can deliver it in Salesforce with the lead, save them all that time. Sometimes it's not necessarily a known person that you're gathering intelligence on. We see anonymous traffic all the time that we can typically associate with an account, now with an individual. So we deliver a lead, John Doe, but we can also say others at company ABC did all these other things. So they're interested in our Kubernetes solution or whatever it is. And so it's not always unmasked known contacts that are giving you that insight. I mentioned we probably have over 1,000 salespeople. We have tens of thousands of current accounts, and we have 5 times more prospective accounts, right? Scale is the biggest problem that we work with. And had I had more foresight 5 years ago and knew that this is where we were trying to get to, we would have solved some of these problems differently 5 years ago. And the biggest challenge that we face in scaling this is data quality. And I'll give you a simple example, right? So when our marketers want to create and execute a new campaign, they generate a campaign code, and we have an engine that does that for them. And they enter all this information. This is an event, and it's this use case or this target segment or whatever it is. They enter all this information. The machine spits out an 80-character campaign code. And in the last year, we generated 3,000 of these campaign codes. And marketing and our analytics team and our data science team use these campaign codes to do all these different wonderful things that we do. But these campaign codes are worthless to sales, right? I know how we build them, and I have trouble translating them. So what we should have done 5 years ago is, with that campaign code, you, Mr. Marketer, need to give us a simple real text explanation of what this campaign is. And that's a simple example of having accurate meta, right? So you have some PDF on some web page. You didn't know, what is the topic? When was it created? What is the target persona that this is intended for? All of those things would be really nice to have to deliver along with this contextual intelligence. That sort of communication gap between marketing and sales is not just a communication gap. I will make the statement, broadly speaking, sales doesn't actually know what marketing does. They think marketing places ads, and they do events and really sort of visible things to sales, but they have no idea that we do all this other stuff, or that we're capable of doing all this other stuff. And so building the bridge, and I've actually started using that metaphor internally, building the bridge between marketing and sales is what this account intelligence allows us to do. The challenge, which I kind of said about data quality, is we need to train the language model, and it doesn't understand 80-character gobbledygook either. And so we need to give it good data so that it can give us good text. One of the challenges, not in a bad way, a good way, that we face is one of our target use case applications for our equipment, and this is public knowledge, is AI, right? Everybody's pursuing AI. But when you think about large data storage equipment, the buyer team 3 years ago, pre-AI, is different than the AI. So now in the AI world, you're starting to have these really kind of data scientists involved in the process. And that's a new animal for us. It's new behaviors in consuming our content. It's new titles in our database. It's new kinds of conversations that our salespeople have to have. And that's caused us to sort of rethink some of the things that we look for in our data. And it's just because we have a new use case. And new use cases come all the time. Well, so it's two things that we're starting down the path on. And when I say we, it's really our data science team. One is associating contacts together in buyer groups. And that's not an easy problem, right? It's not like you look for a title in finance and you look for a title in engineering, you look for a title in purchasing, because we've already said titles suck. But it's also, you need to start interpreting behaviors to try to determine what role they take on the buyer's team. And so associating contacts together as buyer teams is one. The other is starting, now that we have all this rich data, starting to apply machine learning to that, to say, you know what, when somebody's at this stage of their journey, the next best action is that, right? And that action could be a sales action, could be a marketing action, right? Invite them to a webinar with a live demo for a marketing action. For sales, it could be, okay, we're engaged with these three. We are missing a operational decision maker. Find that person. And so those are kind of where we're going. We have tried to communicate to sales is, they want to know, what product is this person interested in? And we typically don't have that information. The better information we have is, what problem are they trying to solve? And we have shown that there is zero correlation between the type of product content they consume and the product that they buy. They consume all kinds of content. The content that matters that they consume is the kind of problem statement. What's broken stuff? What problem am I trying to solve? And we have probably 8 products that can solve that. And so what the salesperson needs to know is, what do I talk about in terms of what they're trying to solve? And then I'll take them and we like to say, look, we can't tell you what, nobody in marketing knows what that lead or that account is interested in until a salesperson actually talks to them. But the other big thing we're trying to solve is proving to sales that this stuff works, and that we're not just dumping stuff in their Salesforce inbox and that there's real value in there. And so getting sort of win stories. This is how this has worked in the past. This is, again, building the bridge between marketing and sales. That's a lot of what we're trying to do.